Member for Melbourne.
Thank you, Speaker. My goodness, what a day to be in politics. I think I would like to apologise to people sitting in the gallery because they're probably pretty shocked at what our parliament devotes its time to. With less than 3 months to an election, we see both sides desperately throwing as much mud as they can and trying to make it stick. And heaven help those who actually thought that this parliament was here to pass laws to the benefit of all Victorians. Now, I'm sure Labor are probably kicking themselves a little bit at the release of this personal information. What should have been a slam dunk has turned into a bit of an own goal. And we've said before that we don't like to support motions that simply play political games or seek to obstruct the business of the House. So we're not particularly impressed at the language of this motion that's deliberately hyperbolic, seeking to do maximum damage to the Leader of the Opposition in the lead up to the election. But that said, the actual substance of the motion is in fact very, very serious. Matthew Guy, as Planning Minister, wreaked absolute havoc on our community.
I asked the member to use correct titles to refer to members.
He wreaked havoc on our city and on our way of life. And I have to say that I have actually lost count at the number of community members who have personally told me that they think the current opposition leader was the worst planning minister in Victoria's history. And that is saying something because we have had a few shockers.
Order. Point of order. I just asked the member to resume her seat. The member for Gembrook.
Thank you, Speaker. In relation to this censure motion, it's specifically around Ventnor and around the documents in there and the documents. The references to all across planning or areas in Melbourne are totally irrelevant to this argument. If the Greens member can't talk about the specific censure motion, then she shouldn't be speaking at all.
Order. The member for Prahran on the point of order.
I think you'll find the member for Melbourne is being incredibly relevant to the motion, which is regards to the Leader of the Opposition and to the planning decisions he's made. I think it's entirely relevant.
I don't uphold the point of order. Member for Melbourne to continue.
Thank you, Speaker. As I was saying, I have lost count of the number of community members who personally tell me they believe that this current opposition leader is the worst planning minister we've ever had in Victoria's history. And people personally come up and tell me that they cannot believe he is still sitting in our parliament. And this Ventnor case that the censure motion is centred on is just one example of the worst aspects of politics that we're seeing in Victoria. To rezone a piece of land that gives your mates a windfall profit once they develop or sell it, it's just outrageous and potentially corrupt. It's everything that's wrong with our politics.
Member for Hawthorn. Members
Giving
are warned.
developers and corporations.
I asked the member for Melbourne to resume her seat for a moment. Members are warned that they'll be asked to leave the chamber if they shout while a member is speaking. Member for Melbourne to continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Giving developers and corporations
free
rein
the chamber for 15 minutes.
Over this city is everything that is wrong with the planning system. This is the reason we don't get to have nice things like parks or affordable housing or good quality design.
The member for Warrandyte. Member for Melbourne.
This is the reason why we don't get to have nice things like parks or good design or affordable housing or better public transport, because profit in this state is king. Profit for wealthy people seems to override anything else in this state. It overrides good planning, it overrides livability, it overrides amenity, it overrides the needs of the people who actually live in this city. And the legacy of the opposition leader's planning decisions will stay with us for decades, and they will shape this city for decades. And heaven help us if he ever becomes Premier of this state, because it will be a developer's picnic once again. Now, when the Ventnor issue came to light, back when the current opposition leader was planning minister and when he sat in the other place...
Point of order, the member for Kew.
That the member for Melbourne is reading a speech, Mr Speaker.
I asked the member for Melbourne whether she's referring to notes or reading from a document.
Referring to notes, Speaker.
Referring to the notes. Please continue.
When the Ventnor issue came to light, when this current opposition leader was planning minister and he sat in the other place, there was a no confidence motion moved against him in the upper house. in September 2013. And the Greens voted for that no confidence motion because he refused to explain his terrible decisions. He refused to take responsibility for them, and they were awful, awful decisions. They were so far outside what is expected of an honest minister of this state. So for consistency, and because of the incredibly serious nature of these allegations, the Greens will be voting for this censure motion. There has to be some ramifications for terrible, terrible decisions that are taken by ministers in this state that are not in the public interest. There has to be ramifications for people who seek to prioritise profit for their mates and power for themselves over the public good. And currently there are very few ramifications for ministers in this category, and there are far too many decisions taken that are in that category. It seems like there will be very few ramifications for this opposition leader, who seem to pay out millions of dollars in public money just so he can keep his job. Well, I hope he does not keep his job. In reality, this censure motion probably is going to do very, very little.
Member for Melbourne has the call. Members have been warned. I'll be asking members to leave the chamber if they continue to shout. Member for Melbourne.
In reality, unfortunately, this censure motion will probably
the Ferntree Gully can leave the chamber for the period of 1 hour.
In reality, unfortunately, this censure motion will probably do very, very little. Maybe a couple of bad days media for the Leader of the Opposition, perhaps another small stain on his parliamentary career. But unfortunately, that's probably about it. What I wish we were actually debating here is some real ramifications. What I wish we were debating is the Greens' idea of a judicial inquiry into this whole matter. We need ministers to be held to account when they make decisions that are not in the public interest, especially when there are allegations of potentially corrupt behaviour at play. So let's debate that. Let's debate having a parliamentary integrity commissioner that can actually get to the heart of some of this and actually change our behaviour in this parliament. Let's debate actually changing the ministerial and members' guides and codes of conduct, because currently the standard of behaviour in this place does not live up to what the public expects. And let's finally elect people to this place who are here for the right reasons, who are here for actually standing up for Victorians, who actually give two hoots about the public, two hoots about the public good, and two hoots about actually making this state a better place, rather than those who are here simply to build their own wealth or power for their mates.